Hello, everyone. Real quick announcement before we get into the main topic of this episode. I'm happy to announce that the Ferrari Fan Club podcast now officially has a Patreon. So if you like what we do here on the show and you want to give a little bit of support and receive some bonuses, please head over to the Patreon and check it out. We have 3 tiers available. The first of those is the GT3 tier. It's only $3 a month, and for this tier, you have general support. You get to vote for your favorite Ferrari driver of the day, and you get chat access to the community. The next tier is Hypercar. It's $4 a month. Here you get ad-free episodes, early access to the WEC race reviews. You get questions and comments that you get to submit your thoughts and ideas for the WEC races. You get to vote for your favorite driver of the day as well. And of course, you get the chat access. And then the top tier is called Formula One. That is $5 a month. For that, you get a special member shout out, of course, ad-free episodes. You get early access to audio and video episodes. You get exclusive Q&As if we ever have a guest on the show, like we've had drivers in the past on the Ferrari Fan Club podcast. If you want to ask them questions, you will be able to do that with the exclusive Q&As. You get questions and comments that you get to submit for the Formula One races, and all the WEC stuff is included in this as well. So please head over to the Patreon, support the podcast, and when you do, you're really supporting somebody it's just me making this show. So you're pretty much just supporting solely me. You're not throwing your money away to some big corporation or anything like that. You're literally just supporting a single creator on this platform, and I so appreciate it. I just appreciate you listening, honestly. But if you want to give a little bit more, I really appreciate that more than you could possibly ever know. But that's all I have to say, so let's actually get into the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Well, hello, Ferrari fans. Hello, race fans. Welcome back to the Ferrari Fan Club podcast. Super happy to have you here today with this episode, another edition of Tifosi Talk, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So this episode is going to be talking about all of the F1 teams and what their goals should be for 2026. And at the end of the episode, we're also going to mention points of things that we could be positive about or look forward to in the 2026 season. And to help me through this is one of my friends from Australia, Lucas Lennon. How you doing?
Thanks, Xander. Hello, all the Ferrari fans listening. Thanks for the invite. I'm going really well. Thank you.
Awesome. Lucas is actually one of the people that kind of inspired me to do a podcast, because he himself, last year, you hosted the World Endurance Championship podcast, and I thought it was a great show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I started listening to the World Endurance in 2021, where it was a little bit of a dark age with just the Toyotas, Glickenhaus, and one Rogue Alpine. And by 2023, it was all kind of kicking off, and obviously Ferrari joining. You know, we had Porsche and so many Peugeot, of course. And I just thought, there's no one's talking about this. So I thought, for the next season, I thought that would be something fun to do a little podcast myself. Like, I love doing it. It was awesome to do, but it takes a lot of time, as you know, it's not only watching the races, it's, keeping up to date with all the news and fact checking everything and obviously doing editing and stuff like that. So kind of where I was, I just couldn't set the time aside that I really wanted to do it. So kind of put it on pause for a bit, but your podcast is awesome. I absolutely love it. And I think World Endurance is very close to my heart. I know we're talking about Formula One today, but the race summary podcasts that you do, I absolutely love them. If I'm on the road or something, I'll just chuck them on and kind of relive all the storylines throughout the races. So no, it's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, that's such kind words coming from you. It really does mean a lot, and I'm just thrilled to have you on the podcast today and just talk about some Formula One stuff. It's going to be great. So we're going to go team by team, and we're each going to have a goal for it and kind of just discuss and kick around some ideas. And I thought a good starting point would be the brand new team that's going to be joining the grid for 2026, that being Cadillac. So the goal that I have picked for them is they need to show development and understanding throughout this season. So they're probably going to be last in the championship, just coming from the standpoint of being a completely new entry. Yes, they are getting some support from Ferrari on the engine front, but they are taking on a lot of things themselves. So they need to prove that they can learn from their on-track activities. And I think Bottas and Perez kind of need to show that they still belong on the grid. Cadillac just, they also need to be honest with their expectations. Don't promise anything crazy like Alpine has done time and time again. And from all of the kind of the commotion that was around them coming onto the grid with Michael Andretti and all that controversy and stuff, they need to show that they're actually going to stick around in Formula One. It's going to be so difficult, but they got to show that they're in it for the long haul because of the stink that they kind of made trying to get into the sport.
Absolutely. I've got kind of 2 points down for Cadillac. I think similar to you, took the approach of if they've come into the sport, particularly with Andretti being knocked back because they, to quote kind of Formula One, saying that they weren't going to contribute something to the sport or kind of along those lines. I think Cadillac's probably going to have to prove to everyone that they're a worthy manufacturer and they are going to actually contribute something to the sport, because we've now got 22 cars on the grid. I'm loving the extra cars, but it's kind of only beneficial to have more cars if they're actually competitive. We don't want to go back to the Williams or the Haas kind of times when they were just pretty much a back marker. And a little something funny I put down for Cadillac, I'm like, their only goal should be kind of in the next kind of couple of years, they just need to beat Haas, really. Because, they're going up two American teams. They're like, look, if we're beating Haas, then that's our goal right now. That's what we're aiming for. Obviously, podiums and stuff would be amazing, but they're going to be a little way off that. But if they can beat Haas in the short term, I think they'd be very, very happy with that.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, is that if beating Haas would be an absolute win for Cadillac, because Haas has, touted that they are the American team for years. And I mean, Cadillac coming onto the grid, I would say they're even more American than the Haas team. So to be the front-running American team would absolutely be a goal to set for Cadillac. And I also wanted to get more of your thoughts on the drivers. What's your overall opinion on Bottas and Perez coming back?
Look, I personally love that move because we know that particularly in teams that aren't right at the cutting edge, right at the front, Bottas and Perez, they know how to make those, the kind of mid-pack cars. They get every single ounce of performance out of them. Seen Bottas only got the call up from Williams because he was performing so well. Of course, Perez in the Racing Point and Force India before that, they really extracted everything out of that car. And, at the current situation, Cadillac are just going to want people with experience. Of course, Bottas comes from Mercedes, so he knows what a top-performing team looks like. Perez at Red Bull, so they've got really good experience, and they've both had a bit of time out of the sport, and I think they're both going to be coming back in, really trying to prove that they've got what it takes. Little funny side story, if I'm allowed to divulge a little bit. I actually met Valtteri Bottas when he was in Australia. They had like a gravel bike, like an event kind of thing out not too far from where I live. I'm with his partner or wife, Tiffany. And so they had like a little gravel bike event. They had like this big dinner kind of thing on, and you could kind of book in, and there was barbecues and stuff going. So I thought, oh, what the hell, we'll drop in. And kind of had a bit of a chat to Bottas. This was after he'd been dropped, and it was kind of his year out, and he was going through the what's next, and he had his gin brand there. God, it escapes me what that's called.
Right on.
So we'll just kind of chat a little bit to him, and so he's one of my favorites to kind of see how he goes over the season, because he's definitely a a great driver and gets everything out of the car.
That's a super cool experience. I really appreciate you sharing that. That's so awesome. I've never had the privilege of meeting a Formula One driver before, but and that's super cool. And I have to agree with you on the driver front. It's smart from Cadillac, I think, choosing two safe pair of hands. I really feel like both of these drivers have kind of been dealt the short end of the stick when it came to their time in front running teams. Of course, Perez had a really good year the first year he was in Red Bull, I believe, helped Verstappen win the 2021 championship. After that, it kind of just went downhill. As we've seen, Red Bull had a difficult car. And then on the Bottas side, he only got a year-on-year deal at Mercedes, and that really messed with his mental strength. So
Yep.
I think both of them in this project could be a really good thing for them.
Totally agree.
Okay,
Awesome.
let's move on to Audi. And would you like to go first, Lucas, on this one?
I'd love to. I'm quite passionate about the Audi project. It's one of obviously I'm a Ferrari fan first, but I think this is going to be one of the up and coming teams. So I've gone bold, but I think Audi should be aiming for top 5 in the constructors. And I reckon Hulkenberg's going to be top 10 drivers champion. I think they've got such a good building block. Obviously, they've had a couple years, kick Sauber. They're not such a high performing team, and they've just been investing in this 2026 season. Hulkenberg, really highly rated driver. I think similar to Bottas, he gets absolutely everything out of those cars in the midfield, and of course they've got the up and coming driver as well in the team. So yeah, I think Bortoletto is going to be great, and yeah, I think going to take over and yeah, they've got the Ferrari power in the back, which is always a good start. And yeah, I reckon with some good team members and team principal and engineers, I think they're going to be strong.
Yeah, the Audi project is an interesting one. Absolutely, because they are one of the teams that have decided that they're going to do everything themselves, and I think including the power unit, because they actually are a new power unit on the grid, if
Oh, they
I'm not
really?
mistaken.
Sorry, that was my bad. I thought they were with Ferrari temporarily until they got their
Oh, no, you're
engines up
good.
and running. Yeah. Damn, okay.
Yeah, I think Audi actually is bringing their power unit to the series, because I think they wanted to do everything standing on like their own 2 feet, so to say, because they wanted to be this new works team coming into it and everything. Since they are, it's weird. Audi's a little weird because they are, yes, a new team, but at the same time, they're kind of not, because they are taking over the Sauber team. So they don't necessarily have the same excuse to fall back on as Cadillac. Like if Cadillac is just terrible at the back of the grid, they're like, well, we're a new team, we're trying to figure it out. Audi doesn't have that to fall back on. So I think what their goal needs to be is to improve on Sauber's form from 2025. And they need to at least be better than Sauber. And I wrote it down. Let's see. They finished with 70 points in the constructors. So I feel like they have to do better than that. And I feel like Audi's goal really should be to finish ahead of Haas, because they are a works team. Yes, it's a newer works team, but I feel like they should be at least beating Haas, which Sauber did not last year. And I think that would be a good step of progression if Audi was at least fighting those or finishing ahead of those lower midfield teams. I agree with you on Hulkenberg that he should be a driver looking to be in the top 10 of the championship. And he had a little bit of a slump. He had that podium at Silverstone, which was absolutely incredible story.
What a story.
Then
That was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Incredible. Like, I was so sad to not see Hamilton get his podium, but at the same time, I was just overjoyed to see Hulkenberg get that result. Yep. And he had a little bit of a slump, and I think he definitely needs to avoid that part of the season, especially with this new Audi project. And Bortoletto, super fast kid, and I just think that he needs to make less mistakes, just kind of iron those kinks out a little bit.
Completely agree. Yep. I think if they can get another podium this year, match their podium count for last year, I reckon that'd be a pretty good effort for their first year.
Oh yeah, that would be an incredible result to have a podium. Like even that, I feel like would be kind of overachieving on their end, just like that was an overachievement on Sauber's part last year. But yeah, I think as long as they build on the form, start where Sauber left off, and improve incrementally throughout the season, I think that would be an absolute win for Audi.
Yep.
What do you
I'm
think
really
of their
keen.
car design?
I reckon if they'd put another like 10% of detail on that car, it'd be a 10 out of 10. I reckon it's just missing out on that last little bit of detail that really seals a deal. It's kind of like they got the base right, they
Mhm.
got the colors right, the broad kind of design looks good. I reckon they just need a little bit of something just to kind of finish it off. Maybe that'll come like, they wanted to keep it simple first year and then build on it. Yeah, no, I think at least it's different because those early renders, I was like, oh, no, I don't want another like majority black or silver car, bit of red or a bit of white or something like that. There's so
Yeah.
many cars that use that kind of color scheme. I really like the magma, that color on the sides definitely pops.
Yeah. It absolutely does. Sorry, what was that?
No, that's right. I was just saying it. Yeah, it really pops and is like definitely a new color for the grid, which is great. I loved it when we had the Racing Point, the pink, and yeah, with all the different
Yeah.
colors. Yeah, it's going to be nice. I liked it when the Mercedes kind of had the black and the silver going. It looks really good. I think I like it here because yeah, in the era where they kind of had the black livery going, I mean, we had a lot of cars that had quite a lot of the carbon exposed for the paint. So I'm glad the FIA.
Mm.
I believe there's a new rule that they have to have a certain percentage painted now, which is really good. I'm glad.
Yes, it's 55. And
Yep.
I'm so glad of that too. But yeah, I agree that red pops. The titanium color is, I think, fantastic. And I agree with what you said. I feel like if they maybe would have done a little bit more to tie it all together, it would have been like perfection. But I
Yep.
think overall, it's still a pretty good looking car.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, let's move on to our next team now. And next up on my list, I chose to do Haas next. So their goal for me is to continue to make progress up the grid. Now, they have had some momentum lately. They've brought upgrades that have worked on the car in 2025. So we've actually seen them move up a little bit. But now they have this backing from Toyota. And there's then this like rumor around, is this where Toyota's getting their start and coming back into the support? But they have this technical alliance now with this powerhouse of a manufacturer that is Toyota. So I feel like they need to continue to show that they can introduce upgrades and actually have a concrete plan to continue to improve the car. I kind of want to see the Haas from the earlier days where they would punch above their weight a little bit more and kind of get these upper top 10 finishes. They are a little bit limited with how much they can do with the Ferrari side of things because they do take as much as they possibly can. So there is a natural ceiling there. But I feel like they should at least be looking to fight the Racing Bulls in the Constructors' Championship. And the inverse goal that we talked about for Cadillac beating Haas, I included don't let Cadillac beat you.
Yep. So I think they're going to have a very similar goal to Cadillac in that sense. Look, I was going to go one further for Haas. I think like I loved this team when it first came in. As you said, they were really punching above their weight, especially Grosjean and Magnussen. They kind of had that dynamic there. And Gunter Steiner, they had the bit of a the kind of underdogs and personality about them. And then I really went off Haas when who'd they have? Schumacher and whatever, what's that Russian bloke's name?
Mazepin.
Mazepin, yeah, that's him. And when they had those guys in and they were like 3 seconds a lap slower, I was just like, just, I don't even know. Is it worth them even being here? Like, that's kind of where I was with them. And like, for me personally, I don't know, like this would be interesting to hear your view on this as well, but I've always loved the manufacturing brands more than these kind of customer teams, only because if you're a manufacturer, if you have road cars, you've got like such a big brand, take someone like a Ferrari, for example, Mercedes, even Aston Martin,
Mm-hmm.
they've got real cars that they use real technology and they have engineers and they'll always have those little subtle undertones of, this development can go back into the road cars, making them faster, making them better. Where I feel like those customer teams, they just come in and just buy as much as they can, like Haas with Ferrari. And are they ever going to be a front running team if they're just getting all the kind of Ferrari customer bits? I don't know. At least with Cadillac, you could say they could, I don't know, come up with something brand new that no one else has thought of, and then they'll all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
be overtaking Haas because they're like, well, we've got something that you don't. So I feel like it's a really dangerous time for Haas, and like a little, I don't know, a little kind of side thing that I've been thinking recently, if Cadillac do actually come out quite strong and Haas are at the back, I could almost see Toyota buying that team out and coming back as a manufacturer works team entry if Cadillac are strong and Haas have missed the boat on something. They've got a great team principal. They've got good drivers. It's really the brand itself, the Haas team holding it back at the moment. Like if they had the backing of someone
Mm-hmm.
to do their own work, to do their own engineering and create their own parts, I think they could have a lot more scope to grow. I just can't see Haas, growing. They don't have that kind of scope to really expand and get better. Whereas someone like I don't know, like an Aston Martin, I'd be interesting to see how Aston Martin do. We'll get to them in a bit, but they probably weren't that good last year. But now they've got Adrian Newey. Now they've got backing and a good driver. They can really, have that scope to grow. Where I just can't see Haas doing that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you on that front because we're no longer in the days of Formula One of like the true kind of privateers. Like, I mean, Jordan's probably the best example of that, is how they were a team. They were a customer team, of course, of an engine and all this kind of stuff, but they did, they were responsible for building the car, and at times they won races, and they were, I mean, close enough to a constructors championship at one point in the history of the team. But we're kind of left those days where the teams are no longer kind of like that. If they are customer teams like Haas, they are just more of like, it almost feels more of kind of like a marketing exercise, because Haas as a business is a manufacturing plant. So it is kind of a way to get that name out there, get the exposure out there. And of course, they don't want to be at the back of the field. But yeah, I feel like, especially during the start of their tenure in Formula One, it really felt like they were just content with being like, oh, as long as we, finish sometimes inside the points, that is good enough. With this whole Toyota thing and the rumors of possibly them taking over as a manufacturer, I think that would be an incredible thing for Formula One. Like, one, having another Japanese mark on the grid, and with it being, could potentially be official Toyota team with Haas as kind of the technical alliance partner and all this kind of stuff, it might be able to transform into this team that's actually able to push forward and move past this weird, awkward zone of trying to actually fight for good results, but at the same time, just being content to be on the grid. So I think it's a wait and see kind of situation.
Completely agree. I think they're in a very similar situation to Williams. I don't know. Did you want to do Williams next? Because I've probably got a similar view to them as well.
Sure, we can do Williams next, and you can take it away with you can start their goal if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think for Williams, it's now time for them to be like mid top 10 is going to be their goal, with the occasional podium. I really want to see a Sainz win. For me, I've always been a Sainz fan. It was back at McLaren, like favorite team Ferrari, favorite driver Sainz. And then when he went to Ferrari, I was like, yes, this is it. And didn't go as well as I'd hoped. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all kind of feel the pain on this podcast of being a Ferrari fan. But yeah, and then now he's
Yeah.
in Williams. I really thought, he's going to start outperforming that car, putting it places where it probably doesn't belong. And we saw that last year. But I don't know how long their 5-year plan is, because it feels like they've always got a 5-year plan. No matter how many years go by, they're going to have to start doing something. They're going to have to start pushing. And I think last year was that kind of first step, with a couple of podiums, of course, for Sainz. But yeah, and I can't believe that Albon still hasn't got a win. Like, I feel like he's been a bit of a staple for the grid for like however long he's been on the grid, like a while. I don't know. I feel like a Williams win's probably well overdue. I don't know when the last time they won a race was. Would it have been Stroll? No, Bottas. Did they win with the white
The
Rexona era?
For Williams, their last
Yeah.
victory was in 2012, and that was Pastor Maldonado, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was a long time ago.
No. Okay. Yeah, they're well overdue. And I think similar to Haas, these teams have come in, particularly Audi, Aston Martin. I think it's pretty much a straight race between Aston Martin and Williams for that Mercedes-powered like team that you actually have to take seriously. Because there's probably another. I'm coming out with all these hot takes, but I've never really taken Aston Martin seriously as like a proper team. Like if you look at them in World Endurance, for example, you're like, wow, that is a car that, it's still early days, but they mean business. They have got some like
Oh
proper
yeah.
engineering behind it. Yeah. And I feel like Aston Martin, probably because of the whole backing, because of Stroll, because, the whole storyline there. But I've honestly just always looked at them as a bit of a, oh yeah, that's right, they're there. Oh yeah, that's right, they're a manufacturer. Oh, but they're just kind of Mercedes customer. You don't get that kind of prestige where you see a Vantage or something on the track. You just don't kind of get that feeling from that car. So I really think with Adrian Newey, Alonso, it's similar. I think Aston Martin and Williams are really in there. Probably the next step up from Haas, but they really need to start getting wins now. Podiums and wins is going to be their goal for sure.
Absolutely. I think you have a great point there with Williams and Aston Martin could potentially be rival teams that are going up against each other because they're both trying to make these huge technological leaps, and they're both trying to be that team that's the next one to join whatever the top team, like the big 4 or 3 is it now, because it's Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari. So yeah, Williams and Aston Martin are trying to be the next team to join that group and push one of the top 4 out. For Williams, I put their goal as show that the sacrifice in 2025 was worth it, because they hardly touched that car all season. And they had a little bit of a rocky start, but then, as Sainz got more comfortable, they were able to deliver the result. Albon was doing all of the heavy lifting in the first part of the season. Sainz was doing all the heavy lifting at the last half of the season. So, and still with a car that was hardly developed. So very impressive stuff. And I feel like James Vowles needs to instill confidence in the team that they actually can move forward. A bit of a shaky start already to the beginning of this season because they missed the shakedown completely. So we're behind schedule in development with the car. They do have the best engine that's rumored the best engine in the Mercedes power plant, and they've just been working on this 2026 car for a long, long time. So they need to show that all the pain they went through in 2025 was worth it. And when we get to actual preseason testing, Williams needs to get the car out there, rack up the miles, and have a concrete plan. They need to put a plan together to make this a good competitive car.
Yep, totally agree. I think it's Williams' time.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But let's actually go to, since we've been talking about them, let's go to Aston Martin next. And for this one, I have chosen to hit the ground running. So on paper, they seem to have an absolute super team. They've got Adrian Newey, the amazing designer from Red Bull. If you take everybody from Formula One, Newey has won the most championships out of anybody. So he's got the most success. They've got Fernando Alonso, who sure has declined since his championship winning days, but still on his A game. Fantastic driver. They've got Honda, which has powered the Red Bull of all of their recent success. All of Verstappen's championships have come from Honda power units. So they really do need to start delivering these big results because Father Stroll's been just chucking money at this project. He's the guy that got Aston Martin to come over. And I've heard rumors that the Honda power unit might be lacking a little bit in the development front because they did start later than everybody else, because they had the whole will they, won't they kind of thing with leaving Formula One. And then they, kind of did a 180 and said, no, we're not. And that's how we got Red Bull powertrains. But anyway, they really need to hit testing. And I mean, there's been rumors that there's been very unique designs that Newey has come up with for this new car. So I really feel like they just kind of need to unite this team, put everything together, and show that they can actually move the project forward. Because we've seen Aston Martin take strides before and do really well, and then just go backwards from there. They've never been able to consistently develop and move forward. So I think that's something they should absolutely look towards.
Yep. Yep. No, that's exactly it. I had a very similar kind of point to you there, and I kind of just summarized it as put theory into practice because exactly as you said, on
Mm.
paper, they would probably be, I mean, Stroll's a bit of a downer, but like in terms of engineering, in terms of money, in terms of Fernando Alonso, I think they should have like one of the best kind of overall packages out there, but something's always gone wrong. I feel like with them, and I don't know how long Honda are planning on taking to like. I don't know if are they going to carry the form that they've had with Red Bull straight over, like because I know it was like the Honda kind of Red Bull powertrain, and now it's going into like a full Honda built engine. I don't know if they can carry that form straight
Yeah.
across. Yeah, because if they can, then yeah, it's looking good for them. And with Adrian Newey aerodynamics, and they've brought over a couple of really good engineers from other teams, and obviously money's no issue. Um, yeah, they've got all these facilities that they've built in the past. They should be one of the best teams. They should be the top four teams, but I don't know. I think they're going to be one of the storylines. Probably them, and for me, it's going to be them and Audi. I'm really excited to see if all these claims that they're making they can actually deliver on.
Yeah, totally. And I also feel like interesting call to make Adrian Newey team principal as well. So I also put that down for Aston Martin that cannot pull Newey away or distract him from working on the car or doing anything on the racing front because I mean, we all know that Newey is not a real kind of people person. Like, he's never been the kind of guy to, go all like the Red Bull media events and hang out with sponsors and talk to a lot of people. He is very much a head down, pencil in hand, sketching on paper. So he needs to be able to do that role without being pulled away to all these other different projects like, oh, let's go take pictures and meet a bunch of people and stuff. I feel like that has the potential to pull him in too many different directions, so they cannot let that happen.
It was such a weird call for them to put him as team principal. I saw that and was like, why have they done that? He is an engineer mastermind. He's not the, interview on the pit wall during the race, sit down and have a chat with some journos. Like that's just not him. So it's going to be really weird to see him take a much more in front of the camera role, or potentially they might do something a little bit like what McLaren do. They have Stella as the kind of really hard engineer kind of team principal, and then they've got Zach Brown, the CEO, who's a little bit more of the kind of personality and does the media kind of talking here and there. I don't know if they might do something like that, but yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. Another thing that's interesting about that, just again going a little tangent, is how we've seen the engineers moving into more of the team principal roles. Like, all the way down the grid,
Yeah.
we've had different engineers who have been, out the back in the factory who've taken over. Obviously, Benotto didn't go so well for Ferrari, but Vowles was probably like one of the first team principals that had a really strong engineering background. And yeah, it's kind of started a bit of a trend recently. So, I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. Maybe they'll spread the media responsibilities out through different team members. But yeah, no, I'm really interested to see how that whole dynamic works.
I am too, and yeah, Aston Martin just needs to make something work. And you're right with the trend of there are so many engineer team principals these days, and it is working for a lot of teams. But one team on the grid that does not have an engineer as their team principal is Alpine. And I think we can transition to talking about our favorite back marker. And I can start us off with this one. So for them, I put don't be a disaster for once. Like, again, like kind of like Williams, they sacrificed a bunch of 2025 to work on the 2026 car. They need to hit the track with more pace. And Gasly is such a competent, well-rounded Grand Prix driver, and he's being so underutilized at Alpine. They got rid of the Renault power unit, so they're no longer a works team. They're a customer of Mercedes, which again is rumored to be the best engine of the 2026 season. So if they're an absolute disaster, can't like blame the power unit. They can't blame their own engine like they have been doing. Like the Renault power unit's been so underpowered, so they can't say that. So if they do poorly again, it's going to look so incredibly bad for that team. And I fear what is going to happen to them if they don't get their act together and actually start doing at least decent. They look like a team that's just ready to sell, that they're just like, oh, we'll put the best power unit in it and all this kind of stuff. We'll put together this nice little package, put a bow on it so that it can just go off to the next person that's interested, because Formula One's a hot commodity. All the teams are worth so much money. Even if you do perform poorly like Alpine, somebody could come along and purchase that team, and it's going to be a pretty penny. And is that like their plan? Do they want to do well in Formula One? It's so hard to see what the Alpine goal is from here on out. So I'm just like, that's why I did don't be a disaster. That's my goal. I mean, and Colapinto also, he's got potential. He's quick, but he also just needs to be more consistent. And I think all of those things together, I mean, they could be decent, but they've just been getting in their own way.
Yep. For Alpine, I had just don't finish last. That was my that was my goal for them, because
Very similar.
yeah. Just keep it simple. Don't be last. So it's a bit like if what's that expression? If there's a lion chasing you, you don't have to be the fastest. Just don't be the slowest. I think that's their going to be their motto for this year. And honestly, I think that the writing's been on the wall for Alpine for a while. When Flavio Briatore came in as team principal, I was just like, why? Why? Like, what a, I don't know. That was such a cop out. And I'm like,
How did
there's
that happen?
so, yeah, the like media, like even just the brand, like, you know, Alpine being the kind of race, like kind of brand of Renault, that's just such a bad look. When we lost the French Grand Prix, like a lot of people argue, you know, motorsport started in France. You know, they should be, you know, people always talk about Ferrari. There should always be a French Grand Prix. That should, Great Britain, France, Italy, like they're the founding motorsport countries. And the fact that, you know, the French team is a joke. They've got, in my opinion, a bit of a joke of a team principal. They don't have a home Grand Prix. You know, they started with Jack Doohan last year, who I thought was a bit of a leap. Like, obviously, fellow Australian, I was like, yeah, go on. You know, Schumacher, Mick Doohan's being the Australian motorbike champion that he is. I kind of thought that could be a bit of a story going on there. They dropped him like so quickly, and then they put Colapinto in, who they never really gave a chance, then did, and then Flavio Briatore's out, you know, dissing their own drivers. Like, it's just such a bad look. And I think that team is on the decline. Like, if they can't even make their own engines, what's Renault / Alpine actually getting out of this realistically? Like,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I could definitely see them being either bought out or, yeah, maybe we drop back to 20 cars and Alpine drop off at some point. But I don't know, if there was a team or a manufacturer that would come in to take over Alpine, I don't know. In my heart, I would love to see Porsche. That's like my dream. I know they were going to come back with Red Bull and then didn't, and then there was like, you know, some storylines there, and they've obviously been doing a lot with World Endurance, which they've now pulled out of, and Formula E, which they do a lot in.
Yeah,
but
sad.
yeah, it's so sad for that kind of side of things. I don't know. I've probably been as much of a Porsche fan as I have a Ferrari fan, particularly when there was no Ferraris in World Endurance. I've always kind of loved Porsche as well, as another one of those iconic motorsport brands. But yeah, I don't know. I can't see Alpine. Like, if I had to put some money on it, on where Alpine were going to finish in the year, or in the championship at the end of this year, I could probably see them being last again, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah. I can see the same thing, because I don't see just throwing a Mercedes engine in there is gonna leap it up the grid, and it's gonna be fighting for fifth in the constructors just because of the engine.
Yeah.
Even though it's tipped to be an engine formula, it's still not enough. So and there's been rumors that Christian Horner wants to take over the Alpine team and it's like turn it into his own Formula One team. Like that would be super weird. I listened to one of the podcasts by the race when Otmar Satnav was co-hosting one of the podcasts, the Team Principal podcast, and he said that he was looking to get an entry into Formula One. So maybe Alpine's just going to turn into like the coalition of all of the principal rejects, and they're all going to come together and like make their own Formula One team. I don't know.
Imagine that'd be so funny. The Horner, Safnauer, bloody yeah! Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. I actually hadn't heard about
That would
the
be.
Horner. Yeah, I hadn't heard about Horner wanting to potentially put an entry or buy Alpine or something like that. I hadn't heard that before, but yeah, that'd be crazy if that happened far out.
It would be absolutely insane. But what you said about Briatore also coming back to Formula One, I thought that was kind of just like a slap in the face to all the F1 fans. Just like,
Yeah,
what even was that? Like, oh my gosh, they're a hot mess.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And with Safnauer, and then what was Ollie? What
All
was
the
his name?
Oliver Oaks, yeah.
Oaks, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was in for a grand total of 2 seconds and then he was gone. And then the fact that, yeah, the only thing I can think of is going on with them is like to a certain extent, like a little bit what's happening with Ferrari. I feel like, in my opinion, where, they've got Alpine, they've got stakeholders, shareholders, they've got all
Mhm.
these people who have got their own inputs, they've got commitments to this person, to that person. They had heaps of like sports stars invest in their team a couple of years ago, didn't they? That like heaps of strange stuff going on, and
Yeah.
then the team principals kind of come in and go, right, this is my plan, this is what I want to do, and then potentially all these different shareholders are going, actually, no, we're going to overrule you, and you're going to do it this way because this is what we want, and then they don't last that long. Go, all right, well, I'm out of here then, because if there's one thing that like every team, like even I'm a big cricket fan in Australia, and that's kind of been keeping me going while there's been no motorsport, but something for the Australian cricket team, which is one of the best in the world and have been for a long time. They've actually got, the team has an identity in and of itself, and they can kind of operate. They've got, the money comes from somewhere, they've got their sponsors, but they operate best when they're in control of how they train, where the facilities are, like what tours they do and don't do. Like if there's other people kind of getting in their ear and saying you need to do this, you need to do that, then these big teams with a lot of money behind
Mhm.
them just crumble, because just you think of every single engineer there, every single person in, the comms team who do the social media, the people who, do the actual aerodynamics, the people who are the test drivers, that everyone needs to have that investment and know that, they are supported. They do have a positive, safe environment to work in. And you look at someone like Flavio Briatore, he's not creating a positive and safe space to work in. I can guarantee you that.
Nope.
Yeah, Alpine's an
Not at
interesting one.
all. Yeah, so not much faith in the Alpine team, but we shall see. Maybe they will surprise us. And I think we can transition now into another team that kind of has a weird spot on the grid, and that is Racing Bulls. Now, I put for their goal is don't destroy new talent. So I feel like they need to break out of Red Bull's shadow a little bit, and that is this dark cloud over the whole Red Bull organization for both of their teams. Is it just kills drivers' careers, and we've seen this from both sides, the full Red Bull team and the junior team. They've been killing drivers' careers for the last few seasons. Now they want to be this fun kind of dangerous team, like, oh, we're not Red Bull 2, we're our own thing. It's just, I don't know. To me, it kind of, the rebranding since they've changed to this Racing Bulls hasn't worked. I think it's dumb. Like that, like what is Racing Bulls? They've also been called V Carb. Like it makes no sense. The driver lineup is a little bit lacking. I feel like going into this new season, undercooked a little bit, because I mean Lindblad seems to be like he is a rising star in Formula One. He probably should have spent a little bit more time in the junior categories, but I just feel like don't crush this kid's career. He actually seems to have a very promising future ahead of him. Lawson is doing better. He's had some good results. I feel like he could, he needs to show some improvement as well to take these next steps forward. He absolutely cannot lose to Blad. And I just feel like this organization just needs to be a little bit patient, and they should be at least fighting. They should be in the fight for around 6th or 5th in the constructors too, because considering the backing that they do have.
Yep, completely agree with you there. I think just the Kiwi across the ditch, as we say in Australia, the New Zealander, I think he is going to be crucial in their kind of whole team performance, because he is now, the experienced driver, even though he's not that experienced. They had Sonoda in there, who was like a staple of that team. You think about some of the other teams that have an old hand, someone like an Alonso, someone like a Hulkenberg, someone like a Bottas and a Perez. They kind of push the team forward, and then Lindblad or any of the rookies coming in are going to be learning the ropes. Like, he's not expected to be getting podiums and whatever in his first year. He just needs to not be in the car and just kind of learn. So I think a lot of the performance is going to be riding on Lawson, which I think he's a good driver in his own form, and I think he was trending in the right direction end of last year. They're definitely my least favorite team. The fact that they have no identity, kind of like what I was saying before, like the manufacturer teams, they've got money and weight behind them. If Racing Bulls got bought or sold or disappeared, I'd be like, oh no. Anyway, because it's just they're just a B team. They always will be, and I find it so funny when they're like, no, we're not we're not Red Bull 2. We're our own team, and then they launch their liveries in the same live stream. You're just like,
Oh my
what are you
gosh.
doing? what?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It's just a cash grab. Visa cash grab.
Ridiculous.
That's all it is. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yes.
I think the best thing that's happened to them is Helmut Marko moving on. I think that is huge for them. And, that should hopefully give the team some more confidence and direction to not have him breathing down, everyone's backs. I think that will be good. But,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that front with Helmut Marko. And I just think it was that whole organization was kind of holding on to this old part of Formula One and the late era of like the 2000s and 2010s even. It was kind of dying a long time ago. So I feel like finally letting go of that old mentality could potentially help them, but they absolutely need to show that they can be different and deliver some results. And I think now would be a great time to go to the main Red Bull team. And would you like to start us off with this one?
Yep, absolutely. I think for Red Bull, because they've got such a change coming with the, Ford backing, I think they really just need to maintain what they had last year. I don't for a second think they're going to be going up against Mercedes or hopefully Ferrari. I think Red Bull are really going to be in a transition phase. I think, Horner obviously is gone. Marco's obviously gone. They've got the young talent of Hadjar. I think he's brilliant. And obviously they have Verstappen. So I think for them, at least my view, is they really just need to maintain where they were last year, just kind of being any slip-ups from McLaren, any slip-ups from Mercedes, then they're on the podium. They're going to grab a win if they make a good safety car or, strategy call. That's kind of where they're going to be. But I definitely feel like the Red Bull era of dominance is over. It was over last year, but it's definitely over now. And I think they're going to be trying to transition and bring Ford into the fight and get some wins in their first year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that front. And it's so interesting to see how this whole partnership with Red Bull and Ford is actually going to work out, because Ford was kind of a latecomer to the powertrains edition. Yes, they are supplying technological help and especially on the electrical side of things. And I thought it was so funny at their launch, Ford was like saying that together they're going to be unstoppable. So Ford is putting the expectations up like here, like they're putting it at an all-time high. And my goal for Red Bull is simply give Max a car that he can at least win with, because if Max isn't able to be competitive, they're going to lose him. Absolutely.
He's
There's
gone.
clauses
Yep.
in his contract. Whoever's the most competitive team on the grid are going to be more than happy to have him. They will get rid of anybody to get Verstappen into the team, whether it's a Mercedes or a McLaren or anything like that. If Verstappen's available and he's like, hey, I want to race for you, I mean, a team would have to be stupid to say no
Yep.
to Verstappen. So I mean, he's walking if that Red Bull's not at least competitive for podiums and victories. So that absolutely needs to be their goal. The powertrains division has seemed to get off to a good start with what we've heard from the shakedown of putting in a lot of miles. No major issues. I know Hadjar did have an accident where he did crash the car. So, I mean, that's actually a great time to talk about Hadjar. He's, I think, a real surprise coming into Formula One. Yeah, he was really good in his Formula 2 season, going for the championship and all that kind of stuff. He was such a hothead in the junior categories and would just scream over the radio over such minor things sometimes, but he seemed
Bit of a
to
Yuki
like get a
Tsunoda
hold of
vibe.
that. Absolutely. And he got like that kind of under wraps a little bit more as he got to Formula One. I feel like Red Bull really need to, again, like it goes back to the patience kind of thing. They have to be patient because they can't do this thing now where they're just spitting out drivers left and right, because if the car is not as competitive as they want, they could lose Verstappen. And then if they lose that, and then they're also getting rid of the other drivers too, if they're not performing well enough, who's actually going to be driving the car at that point? They just need to be patient with Hadjar, give Max a car that he can at least win with, and they should be okay. They should be able to find their feet.
Yep, because there's one thing you can be sure about with Red Bull: they're not going to be, or sorry, Red Bull, the brand, the energy drink, they're not going to be
Uh-huh.
there to be 10th. Like the brand Red Bull is all about, extreme, all about like top performance, all about like, that kind of cutting edge, the extreme sports and whatever. If they're 9th and 10th in the championship, like that backing that they have from the brand, I think that will go. There's a lot of teams that, as we're kind of talking through them, are at a bit of like a kind of tipping point, kind of new season and obviously the new regulations. But yeah, Red Bull, if they're not giving Verstappen a car that is at least good enough for him to get those wins, I could totally see him going to like a Mercedes. I think that could be something at the end of this year if Red Bull are really spiraling. If Hadjar isn't going so well, Verstappen signs with Mercedes, that's another team where it could very quickly go downhill.
Yeah, it could. It has the potential to go downhill
Yeah,
fairly quickly, but with the kind of stuff that they have in place, I think they'll be able to pull it through. They just gotta follow through.
so do I. Yeah, I think they'll
Next
be
up,
all right. One thing, actually, if we could
oh
just
yeah,
touch
totally
on,
agree.
yeah. How do you feel about Ford coming in as a kind of technical manufacturing, alliance with Red Bull? Like, obviously, kind of well-known American brands in the world endurance. They've obviously got the Mustangs, and yeah, I'd just be interested to kind of hear, is that something that, over where you are, is there that kind of Ford pride? Are they kind of leaning into it in their road cars or anything like that? Or is it just kind of something super random that's popped up and everyone's like, oh, great, Ford's here. And then everyone forgets and moves on.
From what I've got the sense of over in the States is that it's not really the talk of the town, so to say,
Mm.
because they did come in kind of so late and just kind of, slap that Ford logo next to the Red Bull powertrains sort of thing. And basically, everyone's been so hyped for Cadillac. It's the Cadillac coming into F1 as the American team has overshadowed any other American presence on the grid, in my opinion. They're going to do the whole launch at the Super Bowl. They're going big. They're going bold. It's like everyone's doing the Screaming Eagle memes and all this kind of stuff with Cadillac. And like
Yeah.
everyone's going full in on that kind of stuff. And it, like, it's because it's a GM product, so it's backed by Chevy. and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, like Chevy's kind of been more of the brand to do kind of like cool stuff. Like, they got the Cadillac in the World Endurance Championship and IMSA, and everyone's like, oh yeah, the screaming V8 engine, all this kind of sick, cool stuff. And Ford's kind of always like the nerd over in the corner. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, if he was a person, it would be somebody with a clipboard and a pen, like always like checking on. That's kind of Ford.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I say
it's
that.
interesting looking back at their motorsport history. Whenever Ford is fully involved in something, it can sometimes turn into a disaster. When they're more of the backer and throwing money at something, it usually pays off. And Ford's had a history of doing well in Formula One with just supplying engines. So maybe it'll be that kind of thing of Ford's going to supply stuff, they're going to do well, and they're going to let the actual team get to the nitty gritty of figuring that kind of stuff out. But yeah, like no one's really waving the Ford flags. I haven't really seen that in the States anyway.
Yeah, that's the kind of vibe I got from it as well. I mean, thinking back, one of my absolute favorite movies is Ford versus Ferrari. That's just like, I don't know, one of those iconic
Agreed.
stories in the world endurance. It's just awesome. And to see them at Le Mans and doing well, but even something like that, they probably haven't been like continually at the top of motorsport for a very long time. Like they kind of come in, invest, they do well, then they pull out and they kind of disappear for a bit. A bit like Honda. You kind of see them come and go. They're doing well, they're not doing well, then
Yeah.
they disappear. Then they come back and then so they kind of a bit like the Phoenix, they rise from the flames and then they do well for a bit. So I didn't really get that Ford, to be honest, I'd kind of forgotten that Ford until I revealed the logos. Like, oh, that's right, Ford have backed it, and yeah, I think they'll let the people who are doing the engineering, who have always done the engineering for Red Bull, they'll let them do it. But I always get the feeling that Ford is a really good, almost like a team that kind of just throws their weight around a bit. They always chuck kind of money at stuff, as you say, put the logo on there for the brand, and it's a good look. But yeah, I don't think like I could never ever see Ford being like a full manufacturer or anything like that. I think they're just in here to kind of back the team and let them do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think next up on the list is let's talk about the team that supposedly is the favorite already for the 2026 season, that being Mercedes. Since I put down for their goal is just get out of this slump. And like we've already talked about several times with other teams that have their power unit, it's been talked about and theorized and rumored that they had got the strongest power unit. People are saying like we could go back to the days of 2014 where Mercedes is finishing 30 seconds ahead of everybody else. They're the ones that have found that trick. I believe in the compression ratio of the engine. Of when it heats up, it expands, it gives it more compression and gives it a boost of, what is it, like 10 to 20 horsepower. So
Yeah, I've seen that as
they
well.
just really need to, it's insane. They just really need to get out of this slump that they have been in. And what's been causing this constant thing year on year is that they would see all this data at the factory. That's what had the zero side pods, and they're like the downforce is off the charts. And then in a real world situation, it just didn't add up. The data at the factory didn't correlate to the track, and they got into this cycle of just continuing to trust, the computers, all this kind of stuff. Lewis Hamilton was crying out for season after season just to stop trusting the data, like, listen to us. And it's partially why he left. And so, like, really, their mission is to deliver on all these things that have been promised. And if they hit the track in Australia and they're up at the front, their only mission is for Russell to win that championship. Antonelli needs to make improvements. He's got raw speed. He's so good. He needs to be more consistent. He needs to not disappear during the European leg of the season. But Russell, if Mercedes are what everyone says they are, their mission's to get that championship for Russell.
Completely agree. I actually have written down, which I was thinking about this as I was driving home from work yesterday. I was really thinking about Mercedes. Like, what is it about them? And what I wrote down is Mercedes need to find their identity, because Mercedes AMG is an incredible manufacturer. Like, their factories, their staff, their like everything is incredible in terms of actually creating something that's top performing, that's durable, They always kind of always at the front. Like they're just, kind of peak Formula One at its core, a core manufacturing team. What I believe that they haven't had for a while, probably, and as you say, kind of contributed to Lewis Hamilton's leaving, is they haven't really had that identity. And since Hamilton's left, it's just gone downhill. Like, they were the silver arrows that were untouchable throughout the and Red Bull kind of came in and threw everything at it, and obviously controversially won the title. And then almost feels like since then they've been too worried about engineering the car that they've actually probably haven't had the best racing outfit. I kind of compare it a little bit to in the World Endurance Championship. You've got like Porsche, the manufacturer Porsche, and then they've got Penske who are kind of running the team, and it's just such a good combination.
Yeah.
Or like BMW with WRT. Like WRT is such a great racing outfit, bringing in such a good manufactured car. Such a well manufactured car. It's like an unstoppable duo where I feel like Mercedes have created cars that are good in the simulator, in the wind tunnels, but they haven't been able to transfer that onto the track. And, Hamilton was the biggest Mercedes driver through and through, right back until like he joined the sport. It always had Mercedes powered engines. I don't know. I feel like recently they've kind of lost that identity of what it truly means to be the best car on the grid. And I think that's something McLaren have done so much better. And that's why we saw McLaren, a customer team to Mercedes, win the championship by a long shot in the case of the constructors, because they not only have some of the best, arguably the best engineering behind them with AMG Mercedes, but they also have an absolutely wicked team to make it happen, and some bloody brilliant drivers. And I think Russell's great. He's a very good driver, and he's kind of got it. And I think Antonelli, as he said, he's got that raw speed and he's trending in the right direction. But they really need Mercedes as a racing team to actually back them and figure out what makes them Mercedes. I was so sure that they were going to kind of remove a lot of the black design and just go full silver arrows, because I thought, a bit like how Hamilton, at Ferrari kind of went back to the yellow design helmet, kind of going back to his roots. I thought Mercedes were going to do a bit of a transition and just go, right, what did we have in, the 2010s that made us so good? We're just going to go back and relive that. We're going to do everything the same that we did then. Obviously the sport transitions, but, engine formula and some great drivers, they really need something that's going to pull it all together and actually put the performance that they're capable of. Great drivers, great team, great engineers and great manufacturing. They just need to pull it all together and actually do it, because just like we saw with Piastri in the World Championship last year, you can be an incredible driver with an incredible team, but you just need that 1% more. You need to be 101% on it to win a championship. Just turning up with the best car and the best team and heaps of money doesn't always mean that you're going to finish first every time.
Absolutely. That was very well said. And the points you made were totally on point when it comes to Mercedes and their aspirations and what they need to do. They do need to find themselves again. And this new technical regulation is a great opportunity for them to do so. And we've mentioned them a little bit already, but I think, this is a good point to move on to McLaren, since they also use the Mercedes engine and they are now a front running team. So I feel like you're going to have a lot to say when it comes to McLaren. So I'll let you take this one away to start us off.
I'm going to be a little controversial here and say I've got some notes for McLaren here, so I should just pull them up. But they need to. Am I allowed to use a little swear word here? Is that allowed on the podcast?
We try to keep it clean, but I can edit it out too.
No, that's right. They are going to have to cut the crap. That was going to be a different word. I am Australian after all. They're going to have to cut the crap in the team antics and let the best driver win, because Piastri is better than Norris. Every day of the week, I will die on that hill. Piastri is such a good driver. He's just got everything that he needs, and everything that, in my opinion, Norris didn't have, Piastri has a lot of. So I think he is going to be out to prove himself. And I just really hope that McLaren don't get stuck like they did last year in by trying to be too fair. They actually come across as being a team that it looks like they don't really have any backbone. And then when it comes to a difficult decision, they usually either make the wrong one or they try and make a decision which, they think is right. And it just looks so dumb. Like, this is the pinnacle of motorsport. We can't
Yep.
be worrying about like how long pit stops are. Like, I 100%, again, a Piastri fan, Australian through and through, but I think the reason Piastri didn't win the world championship is because he lost faith in the team. I will, talk to that point until the cows come home. They just had a number of opportunities throughout the year where they lent on giving the advantage to Norris, whether it was deliberate or not. Like, I don't think there were secret undertones of wanting Norris to win the world championship, but I think what they've managed to do is create a situation that has allowed Norris to kind of feel like the team's behind him, isolate a bit, and then when it counted most, when Verstappen was chasing them down, Piastri's just lost complete faith, and Norris has come through and clinched it. And I just want to make it very clear, I think Norris is also an incredible driver. If Piastri had crashed in one race, Norris would have won, and it would have been completely well-deserved and fair. I think that should also be said. Like, both things can exist at the same time, but I think if you were in a spec series or whatever and it was Norris versus Piastri, I think Piastri's got the overall package, a bit like I was saying with Mercedes. You'd need to have that little bit more. You've got to have that ice. You've got to have that winning mentality, which I think Piastri has more of, on top of the raw speed, on top of the experience, and something that, living in Australia my whole life, I think Australians have that she'll be right attitude. And I think that's something that is going to help him. The start of the year, he just looked like pretty unfazed by, oh yeah, I've won a race. That's awesome. Oh, I've been crashed out or I've had a mechanical issue. Yep, that's unfortunate. We'll move on. But just being quite a relaxed customer, I think, is something that's so important. And I don't know, I feel like this year for McLaren, if they can stop these antics and stop the childish interfering with the race, I think they're going to be unstoppable. But I don't think that's going to happen. And a team like Mercedes, who quite clearly have the better driver in Russell, they know Antonelli is going to be building to something great, but Russell is going to be their world champion this year if it happens. And because McLaren try and interfere and get in the way, I think that's going to be their downfall, which it was so nearly their downfall last year that it would have been so funny if they had lost that championship to Verstappen.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry for the rant.
That would have been an absolute disaster. No, it's welcome here. And no, I appreciate you censoring that. And I can only imagine the word that was going to be used.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I appreciate your frustration, because I totally felt the same way throughout that season. And my goal for them is really similar to yours, but it's remain at the front and stop messing around with your drivers. So again, they're going to have a strong power unit with Mercedes. McLaren have proven that they can bring upgrades and it just work immediately. Like, it all correlates. We've seen that in 2024 when they took that huge step and they were basically a backmarker team and brought several upgrades to bring that car to podium contention, to that point where Norris got his first win in Miami. And then 2025, they really came out of the gate swinging with that car, and everything just worked and was in harmony, except for the thing between the communication between the two drivers. So that I agree with you 100% that they need to drop all the BS about what was, like, the term they used was papaya rules, which is just disgusting in itself. They just need to let the drivers fight it out. I do like Norris, like you said, excellent driver. And but I do feel like Piastri is the one that does have that higher ceiling. He's so calm, he's so collected, and yes, he did show like cracks here and there throughout 2025, but I think it was less than Norris. Norris would get into his head way more when it would come to certain high pressure situations. This is Piastri. 2025 was his third year in Formula One, and he's already at the level of somebody like Norris, who's been in this sport for a long time now. Piastri has shown that he is one of the few that can actually go wheel to wheel with Verstappen and come out on the other side, winning that fight. And again, he's third year. He's going into his fourth.
Yeah.
The kid is just incredible. I believe he does have a higher ceiling than Norris. And if he continues to improve, he is going to be so lethal. And they just need to let Piastri be Piastri, do his thing, stay out of the meddling. Whatever happens on track, happens on track. That is racing. Even Verstappen during the Italian Grand Prix was laughing over the radio at McLaren because he's like, a slow pit stop, like, isn't that racing? Like, and he's just chuckling to himself because he knows it benefits him. So it's like, it was so frustrating to watch, but that's one thing they need to work out, remain at the front and just let the drivers do their thing. Cause if you just let them off the leash, they could potentially get even further away from the other drivers and the points tallies to where we don't run into the situation in Abu Dhabi when Verstappen could potentially clinch the championship and was only 2 points away. Like, that was unacceptable in my opinion. They should have wrapped that thing up so many races before the end.
Completely unacceptable. And I just want to add one more thing, which is kind of depressing from me, is that Piastri and I were actually born in the same year. So it kind of really makes me feel good about myself when I see Piastri is like, nearly winning the world championship.
Jeez.
Aussie boy. And here's me. Anyway.
That's how I feel about Leclerc because, I mean, we're the same age. And
right,
to see what Leclerc's already achieved, to see what he's already achieved in life. And I'm like, oh, so, you're also good at playing music and you got your own fashion brand and you have an ice cream brand. It's like the guy just does not stop.
No. At least you've got his hat.
It's true. At least I got the cap.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
I mean, this is a great time to bring on Ferrari, actually. This is the Ferrari Fan Club podcast. The moment everybody has been waiting for is it's finally time to talk about Ferrari. And I
I'd love to go first if that's all right.
Sure, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I feel like what I'm about to say, I feel like we're going to differ quite a lot, so I should probably get mine out of the way. And so you're going to have to hear me out here.
Okay.
But 2026 is Ferrari will be World Constructors Champions. It's our year this year. I think 2025 was a disaster. And as soon as they said they were making a brand new car for 25, I'm like, I'm done. And sure enough, what we thought was going to happen happened, and they've pretty much exclusively invested in 2026. They haven't been champions since like 2008 constructors, I'm pretty sure. And it's just like they've got two incredible drivers. Leclerc, arguably one of the best wheel-to-wheel racers on the grid. I think a bit like Piastri, he has got like such a high ceiling and has the potential. And then look, in the other seat, they've got Lewis Hamilton, one of the greatest of all time, easily, arguably the greatest. So they have got the biggest springboard that they can launch into, and it's got to be our year as Ferrari fans. And I hope for the podcast as well, because it's going to be a great year to be on a Ferrari fan podcast. But yeah, far out. It's got to be this year. If it's not, like, the Mercedes engine is rumored to be good, but they're just rumors. We don't know for sure yet. I'm going to be there in Melbourne. I'm going to be like seeing it live, seeing it first. I'll be reporting back to you everything that happens, and it's got to be. It's got to be. Please.
Yeah, I feel ya with that one, and it's going to be awesome, you being in Australia on the ground. It's going to be so much fun getting pictures and videos and all those kind of reports back from you. I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm just like, I want to believe so bad, but at the same time, Lucas, I'm just like, don't give me hope. Like, don't give me too much hope.
It's the hope that kills you.
Yeah, I know. It's like that. It's like Michael Scott when he was like, without a doubt, I am ready to be hurt again.
Yeah, yes, that's it. We all are in the same boat together.
Absolutely. And for my goal, I didn't go as bold as you, but I just put don't be terrible, aka win a race. Ferrari, just win a race,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
They just,
Yeah.
I feel like they need to show that they can at least be competent. Ferrari need to show that they can be a competent team and be competitive for a whole year. We've seen them come out of the box hitting hard, like in the Sebastian Vettel days, like winning opening races of the season, leading the championship. Leclerc even had a season where he was leading the championship through Monaco, even I believe. It's like we just show that you can be competent and competitive for the whole season. Ferrari have to win races. Yes, that's plural. They need to win more than one. And even if they start on the back foot, like let's just say at the beginning of the season, we've got McLaren and Mercedes up there battling each other, and Ferrari maybe like a couple tenths down. They just need to show from that point they don't panic, don't like light everything on fire and freak out. They just need to stay calm, have a plan for upgrades, really understand the car, and put that into motion of introducing things like much like McLaren did and bring these huge improvements throughout the season. Upper management needs to stay out of the racing side of things. John Elkin, I don't even want to hear anything from him. Let
Got strong
Fred
words to say about John
Vasseur.
Elkin, but I'm not allowed to. I'd have to be beeped. God,
Well,
that guy is just,
I know.
I cannot believe, like, for such an incredible brand, like, obviously we're all here, we all love Ferrari, and I just
Yeah.
don't get it. Nothing has ever come from bagging your own team, your own, like, the people that are employed by Ferrari, if they're getting, like, what kind of a leader is it to be, like, calling them out publicly like that? I understand sometimes, difficult decisions have to be made in behind closed doors, but this is just ridiculous how, yeah. Anyway, I think you covered that very well on a Tifosi Talk a little while ago, and I was like nodding my head every single time. And yeah, I think I know they had a tough year, and it would have been I would have loved to have seen a debate, hate, and rage bait, got that right, after China last year when the double DSQ. I'm sure they would have been popping off there.
Oh God.
Yeah. No, I think the thing, like we're talking about kind of with some of the other teams, you need to let the people who are actually doing the work, let them do their job, let them do their work, give them the support. Obviously Ferrari isn't short on money. They're not short on resources, and they're
Right.
bloody the best race team in history. Like, they need to now own it. We can't live in the glory days. It's just, they've been there since the very first race, and it just seems like they were a bit of a joke last year, which killed me as a Ferrari fan since the first
Oh,
year that I watched
yeah.
Formula One was 2000. Dad kind of showed me the year, and it was like the Brawn super story where they got bought for $1 and then won the championship. I was actually like a full Ferrari, like even in that year, I was like, oh, Brawn, like they're just some randos just turned up. Like, obviously Ross Brawn, brilliant, but kind of me at that
Oh
stage, I
yeah.
was like, yeah, I was kind of there going, well, I would so much. I'd prefer to see the championship go to Ferrari, just in those early days, and then like I kind of dropped in and out of Formula One for the next couple of years. Yeah, obviously the time zones were difficult, and then you couldn't like watch it in Australia without buying, the crazy subscription and stuff like that. So like I didn't really
Yeah.
watch it as much. But yeah, I've kind of always had a love for Ferrari, and I don't know. I like the fact that you and I have both been F1 fans, a decade longer. The fact that we hadn't seen a Ferrari win in a top category, like in any motorsport for that time, obviously until last year. in WEC. But the fact that such an
Yeah.
incredible team was in such a drought for so long kind of says that, they're not lacking in resources, they're not lacking in skill. Everyone would race for Ferrari for free if they could. Like, it's just the kind of team that they have. Hamilton went there, like they weren't the highest performing team. Hamilton didn't go there because it was an easy world championship. Ferrari has something bigger going on. But the fact that there has been such a drought, so many issues in the past, it says there's going to be something bigger going on behind the scenes as we can clearly see. I don't know, but for fear of rambling, I think that if they've backed Fred Vasseur, he's got multiple years, they've backed Leclerc. I think Vasseur's what they need. I think he's a great person to be leading that team. And obviously Hamilton, there's a tiny part of me, and I don't want it to be true, but I'm like, has Hamilton peaked? And after the whole 2021 and him moving to Ferrari, like he's never raced professionally for a team other than Mercedes powered engines. Like this is such a
Yeah.
huge transition for him, and now all of a sudden, yeah, he's struggling, and I don't want it to be true, but I hope that Hamilton hasn't kind of passed his peak, and if Ferrari are struggling, is he the kind of person that is going to be building the team up, or do they need a rookie next to Leclerc who's going to be Leclerc is the now, and the rookie is the future? I don't know. It's tough. Just like all the greats, like Schumacher coming back for Mercedes in 2010, and like he was
Yeah.
nowhere near as good as he was in 2006 and earlier. And just like all of the amazing races that Alonso's had, 10 more points and he'd be like a 4-time world champion. Like that's an insane thought. So
So
he's a
sad.
very good, he's a very good driver. But I don't know, like there comes a time where they're going to have to pull over and let the next young guns through. So I hope that isn't the stage with Hamilton, and I really hope that Ferrari can back their team principle, back their drivers, and really show some commitment like they have in the World Endurance Championship. And it goes to show that if Ferrari put their mind to it, put the money and the commitment in, they can do it.
Totally. And I think you've nailed all of those points. And for me, the situation with Hamilton is, since he is so used to another team, another engine, a whole different environment, it's because, Ferrari's very much an Italian team. So getting used to all of the customs and ways of life and communication, all that kind of stuff, it does take a long time. I don't think Hamilton is on the same level as he was when he won all of those championships back to back, but I don't think he's very far off. I mean, we've seen Alonso carry, his talent like all the way through these years. He's older than Lewis, and he's still not performing at his absolute best, but he's still performing very well. And I think Hamilton also still has that fighting spirit within him. If Ferrari did deliver a usable, good car that was just fantastic all the way around, I absolutely have full faith that Hamilton would be able to deliver. Maybe with having a more challenging car, it's no longer in his wheelhouse because he's not a young gun coming up who's used to driving terrible cars. Hamilton is used to success and having a car do exactly what he wants it to do. So if Ferrari can deliver that, I absolutely feel like Hamilton would be up there winning races. And that is something that Ferrari needs to get him into a position, is so that he can get victories to do so. So I still have full faith in Hamilton. He is one of the greatest of all time. And if Ferrari are delivering a car that Hamilton can use to be fighting at the front, then Leclerc is absolutely going to be, he's just going to be a trailblazer, Leclerc. If Hamilton's able to deliver, Leclerc is just going to be on an absolute another level. So that's another thing Ferrari need to deliver on, is just give Leclerc a car that is just remotely worthy of his skill, and Leclerc will get the job done. We've seen him time and time again just deliver these qualifying laps that are overachieve on what the car really should be doing. And we've seen his racing too. Like year on year, his racecraft and ability has gotten better and better. Even when Ferrari has gone backwards, Leclerc has gone up. Like we saw
Yeah,
that move he did on Russell at the Dutch Grand Prix. He's just fantastic. And I just feel like Ferrari need to have a plan. They got to bring upgrades. They got to show they can be competitive. They got to be competent. They got to trust Fred. They got to let Fred take the reins, lead that team. And Ferrari need to avoid the knee-jerk reactions that have gotten them into trouble so many times. If something goes wrong, don't panic. Don't have a knee-jerk reaction because that always leads them down the wrong path. And like you said, they have everything set up for success. They just need to connect the dots.
trust the process. They've got a winning process, a winning history, and winning resources. They just need to trust the process.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of wraps up that segment of the episode with all the team's goals, unless you had any thoughts to add on that before we move on to our next part.
No, I think we've covered it, and we'll be along for the journey the whole year. There'll be plenty of storylines, I'm sure,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, looking forward to sitting in and listening to everything that's happening, all the hopefully glory that is coming. Hopefully.
I hope so too. And we'll always be here as Ferrari fans. Well, let's move into this final segment here to end this episode. And, the internet, social media is a very negative place. So we're going to try to bring some positivity here. And we each picked 3 things that we have to look forward to for the 2026 season. We can kind of do a quick round through these. And would you like to start us off with your first thing that you're looking forward to?
Yep, absolutely. I think just a pretty obvious one, but something that I've been really looking forward to is just having more cars, and that means more drivers on the grid, more storylines. We've seen just last year how many rookies there were, and they all had pretty positive years. I wouldn't have said that there was anyone who needed to go in terms of a rookie, and yeah, obviously we've got Lindblad as well. So I think there's just going to be such a huge scope to grow, and that's something that this whole podcast we've been talking about. Every team has their own individual storyline, so I'm just so excited to see every single team, every single driver. They've all got something to prove, and yeah, if they can prove that they deserve to be there in this brand new regulation, then yeah, we're getting set up for a great many years to come.
Great point. Love it. My first one is new regs could actually provide better racing. So I know a lot of people have been down on the 2026 regulations, but we could see some good wheel-to-wheel action. Now, they have the overtake mode, they got boost mode from the hybrid. This could add a very cool, unique strategical element now that DRS is gone. Like overtakes won't be the, driver sitting behind another car waiting for the next DRS zone so they can just make a safe overtake and all this kind of nonsense. I think overtakes might have to be more opportunistic in this era of Formula One. The engines might be a little energy starved at the end of long straights, but kind of everybody will be in the same boat. And it'll be very interesting to see how all the teams use the electronic boost. Like, when are they charging? When are they deploying it? It's going to be so fascinating to see how all the teams implement the active aero, because we've already seen from testing shots that the teams have some different ideas of how to implement the front and rear wings to open and when they go back to cornering mode and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's just going to be absolutely fascinating to see all these new strategical elements introduced into Formula One, how the teams use them. And I think it could go into just maybe providing some better racing, since everybody's going to be in the same situation the whole race.
Yep, I think my point was kind of on a similar thread, but I was more looking at just the reduced requirements and the reduced aerodynamics just in general. That the simplified aerodynamics is going to contribute so much, not only for wheel-to-wheel racing, and obviously there's no more DRS, but that kind of DRS train equivalent, everyone's sitting behind the other car, can't get too close because I overheat, but then if I'm too far away, then I can like I've got all this extra speed now and the wash, and even like in the wet races, because it's going to be simplified aerodynamics, all of under the car is going to be simplified. There'll hopefully be less spray, which is something that I've seen and I think is actually really important, because in all the wet races, they don't even get to use the full wet tires because the spray's too bad. They've got grip, they just can't see. So
Yeah.
all of the diffusers and yeah, that's going to be something that I hope will contribute to some closer racing and yeah, being able to have more wheel to wheel racing.
Absolutely. What's your number two?
So that was my second one. And so the first one was all the cars and rookies on the grid. So my second one was the aerodynamics. But yeah, did you want to go into your second one?
Oh, sure, absolutely. For number two, I did the technical arms race. Now, we didn't get that very much in 2025, which is one of the things that I love about Formula One. Of course, I love the drama, I love the drivers, I love the racing. But one of the things that I love about F1 is the technological battle between the minds that are in Formula One. And we didn't get a whole lot of that in 25 because the regs were closing down, all this kind of stuff. Teams weren't going to waste all the time and money and effort to do that when they could be focusing on 26, which is why I'm so excited to get this new team, or not new team, new regulations, so we can get this new technological battle. It's going to be great, I think, because nobody really knows the full potential of these cars. So we're going to get a whole year of teams bringing improvements, teams trying to find out what other people are doing. Kind of, we're going to get this whole dynamic, like probably maybe get a few scandals here and there, which I really miss, and stuff about
Yeah, that's right.
teams, complaining about other teams' upgrades. Like, I really want to see that again. So it'll be fun to see how they implement new ideas. It'll be cool to see if these cars allow people to make huge advancements in jumps. Like, if a team does find one area and improve it, is that gonna like give them a tenth or two or launch them up the grid? I think that is gonna be fascinating to see.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I hadn't like initially thought about that, but yeah, I don't know, all of these kind of weird developments that some cars have had, and then other teams will dob them in, and then what was the one that Mercedes did where they'd pull the steering wheel would change, it'd change the camber, or I can't quite remember, but yeah, that
Oh,
was
the
like,
DAS.
what was that called? Yes, that's it. Yeah. That was crazy how that happened. Yeah, so no, I'm looking forward to that as well. So the last point that I had, which I know probably isn't going to be up the top of everyone's list, but I like how Formula One have been trying to be a bit more sustainable. And I know that obviously this is motorsport. It's never going to be 100% sustainable. And I completely and utterly agree with that. But there are certain things that they can do which helps. And obviously they do heaps of offsetting, which is something I come across quite a lot as part of my job. And it kind of annoys me a little bit because it's always just a cop out of like, if we just buy a bit of the Amazon and just say that's going to produce however many reduce so many thousand tons of carbon dioxide, then yeah, we're really sustainable, which is not how that works. But the fact that they're using the sustainable
Right.
fuels, yeah, the fact that they're using 100% sustainable fuels or not crude oil based fuels this year is going to be incredible. World Endurance Championship has been doing that for a bit before. They are trailblazers there. But yeah, the fact that's coming to Formula One, I'm really happy about. Also, the fact that they're going the 50-50 split of the IC versus like the battery and electrical power, I think that's going to be really great, not only for the cars, the teams themselves who will be running all of these new engines that they'll be developing, which are obviously hyper efficient as they are, but also we're going to see those changes flow on quite quickly into like all these manufacturing teams' road cars, because this technology, the more they do with electronics, the more they do with sustainable fuels in Formula One, you see that change across the cars that you see day to day or all over the road. So I think that's something that is really important. And the fact that they are making a little bit bigger of a deal, I think that's also good because it's kind of setting a precedent of, yes, we are like out and out motorsport. We burn tires, we burn fuel, but you can't just openly destroy the environment. It's just not it's just not an option anymore, and you have to have something in place. So I think Formula One being the pinnacle of all motorsport, they're making a statement on that. I think it's a positive thing. There's definitely so much more that they can do. I think the way that the calendar's laid out has improved over time,
Yeah.
but I think there's still a lot to be done there. And I think how they treat tires and what they're doing with all the rubber and stuff like that, I think there's quite a long way to go there. Obviously, Pirelli mainly in charge of that. So I think there's a little bit more to go there. But yeah, just being more conscious and being more sustainable is something that they have been quite open about. And, a lot of the comments and things like that, everyone's like, well, we don't care. It's motorsport. Like, you can't be sustainable in motorsport. But you don't have to be net zero, or you can't, like, you don't have to go crazy. But there are little things that you can do, and those little things do help. And if you can reduce the amount of not only carbon dioxide that is being produced or crude oil that's being mined or whatever, but being more sustainable, there's less and less engines that get used every year. There's more and more parts that are limited on the number that you're allowed to have because, yeah, back in the day, they're like, oh no, our engine's blown up. We'll just get another one. Now they have to be a bit more conscious of that, which I just think that's a great thing, because when all these teams are spending so much money on their cars, I think if the regulations can force them to do things more sustainably just in the rule book, I think that's going to be a positive thing. So that's something I was looking forward to.
Totally. I think that is a really important thing for Formula One to keep at the forefront of their mind too, is just how to continue to make things more sustainable. And like you said, the calendar really does go into a huge portion of that, because it's so wasteful to be, flying to different continents like several times during a season. The calendar is getting closer to being a more of a regionalized calendar where you stay in a certain area until you're done with that set of races. So I'm looking forward to them figuring that out more. And it'll be really interesting to see how Formula One decides to go, even with like future engine regulations, sustainable fuels, and all this kind of stuff. I know Sebastian Vettel has been a big advocate, like yourself, with sustainability in Formula One. That's why he had that demo in Mansell's Williams, and he was running it off of sustainable fuel. So it's like it can be done. F1 can still be exciting and loud and incredible for the eyes and ears. But yeah, it's definitely, to keep things sustainable is such an important goal.
Yep. Yeah, totally. One thing I have
Okay.
seen some people say in the past, which has been funny, and I don't know, like, logistically how it would work, but if we're running on sustainable fuels, there's a lot of electronic components that are adding to sustainability. Why can't we go back to V10s and just use 100% sustainable fuel that's based on like waste
Yes.
from food or anything like that? Surely that, like, they still have to make engines. If they just make them a little bit bigger and they're going to sound incredible, maybe that's something they could look at
Yeah.
implementing, because that would be stunning.
At least give me a V8. I mean
At the
V10 would
very
be the
least.
dream, but at least give me a V8. Come on. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love all your points there. So for my final one, I did something to look forward to, is a possible new world champion 2 years in a row. So the last time that we had this was in 2008, when Lewis Hamilton won the world championship following Kimi Raikkonen's championship in 2007. So we haven't had a new world champion and then a new world champion right after since then. And with how the grid is looking, we could very much see a brand new world champion on the grid. Could it be Piastri with, taking another step forward with McLaren challenging Norris for the supremacy in that team? Could it be Russell if Mercedes finally deliver on the promise that they made him all those years ago when Russell thought he was joining a championship caliber team? Dare I say it? Could it be Leclerc finally getting a car worthy of his mega ability and talent that could at least give him a chance to win the championship? So I think this whole dynamic is just fascinating to me. And depending on how the year goes, we could possibly see 3 new drivers with a shot to win the championship. And I mean, any one of them would be worthy, but it would be really cool to get, back to back brand new world champions for the sport instead of just starting, it seems like we've been on this trend of every 4 years the same guy wins it. And so it'll be nice to kind of see if we can just have a new guy win it and then a new guy win it again. And then maybe that turns into like a Senna Prost kind of rivalry where, like they're kind of getting back at each other year on year. I think we need that in Formula One. I think we need like a rivalry that lasts years again. And that's something that would be so amazing for the current day and would be such a good, healthy thing for the sport to see two up-and-coming drivers start to lock horns year on year.
That would be incredible. I really hope that's such a good point. I really hope that we get that for sure. Maybe it could be Mercedes versus Ferrari. Maybe,
or yeah, you could go back to the like Hakkinen Schumacher days and be McLaren and Ferrari. It's like,
yeah,
I just think it'd be so cool if we had characters like Russell, Piastri, Leclerc, Norris, like all Antonelli, throw him in there, like all of these guys continuing to fight each other like year on year for championships. I think it would be incredible.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Well, yeah, same here. And that pretty much brings us to an end, like to this episode. Lucas, it's been such a joy, like a pleasure talking to you and going through these team goals and talking about things that we're looking forward to in the 2026 season. This has been an absolute mega episode. And again, it's been a lot of fun talking to you on the pod.
It's amazing how the time flies when you're having fun, just thinking about all Formula One stuff. I'm so looking forward to the season, and thank you so much, Xander, for having me on the podcast. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. And we'll have to get you on the podcast for future events as well. Maybe for even a couple of the race reviews. And that'd be super nice to have you back. Well, if you are enjoying the content that you're listening to, it would be super helpful if you follow the show, give it a review on your platform of choice. We do now have a Patreon, so there's extra stuff there that you can go check out. And again, thank you so much for listening to the Ferrari Fan Club podcast. I really do appreciate it. And wherever you are in the world, hope you're having a good one. Talk to you real soon.